Mr. Russell, you have your hand raised?
Well, just responding to your question. This is Larry Russell, MMWD. You asked about that, how I signed in. I thought that's
Mr. Russell, I'm not hearing you. One moment. Mr. Russell, can you hear me?
I can hear you loud and clear. Can you hear me? You're loud and clear.
I'm sorry, Mr. Russell. I see you're speaking, but I don't hear you coming through. One moment. Mr. Russell, can you hear me now?
I can hear you loud and clear.
Oh, now I hear you. Thank you. We're having a little technical difficulty. Are you the administrator NMWD?
No, that's
okay.
Actually Jack Gibson, but I'm the number 2.
Okay, thank you so much. So Administrator NMW, I'm going to rename you to Jack Gibson if that's okay.
Okay, well, Jack is probably going to sign on.
Oh, okay, thank you so much.
So, but I have no idea. That's what I think.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Administrator NMWD, is that Drew?
That would be Drew. That's in MWD, right?
Yes, I'm going to rename and promote.
Okay. Were you asking about MWD before or N MWD.
No, N is in Nancy.
Okay. Yeah, that would be Drew.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jack.
Hi. Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Roberta, I see that Susan is listed as an attendee. I think she needs to be promoted to a panelist.
Yeah, I'm trying. I've tried a few times and it's not working.
Oh.
Give me a second. Thank you.
Thanks.
I'm sorry, Ms. Harvey. I see you as an attendee and I've tried several times to promote you to a panelist. Would you mind disconnecting and trying to rejoin, and we'll see if you can promote you from there? Ms. Blett, I think is how you pronounce it. I unmuted you.
Hi, Roberta. This is Veronica. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. It's Bloody.
But thank you.
Sure.
My apologies. We've tried to promote Susan Harvey several times and we're not able to promote her to a panelist for, oh, we see a hand raised. Ms. Harvey? Ms. Harvey, can you hear us?
How's that?
I can hear you now, but we can't promote you to a panelist for some reason.
Ugh.
Oh, well, it looks like maybe you promoted. So maybe Zoom is just having
Okay.
some issues this morning.
Maybe, yeah. And I'm on my cell phone, which is not ideal, but it is what it is.
Thank you.
So do we have a quorum? And I can't, oh, here we go. I'm having a hard time seeing things, so.
I believe we have all WAC members present at this point.
Okay, then I will, sorry for the technical difficulties. I will call this meeting to order for November 1st, 2021. And I would ask the recording secretary, Alpha, to please do a roll call.
Yes, City of Cotati,
Yes.
City of Petaluma,
Here.
City of Rohnert Park,
Here.
City of Santa Rosa,
Here.
City of Sonoma,
Yep.
North Marin Water District,
Jack Baker was here.
I thought he was going to be here.
He was on the screen earlier. Jack, are you muted?
we're not showing him as a panelist at this point. Let me see
Okay,
if he's back
all right.
in. And I don't show him as an attendee either.
No.
Town of Windsor,
Here.
Valley of the Moon Water District,
Here.
Marin Municipal Water District.
Here.
And then for TAC members, City of Cotati,
Mike Scott, City of Cotati.
City of Petaluma,
Mike Almarini, City of Petaluma.
City of Rohnert Park, City of Santa Rosa,
Jennifer Burke, Santa Rosa Water here.
City of Sonoma,
Colleen Ferguson, City of Sonoma.
North Marin Water District,
Drew McIntyre, North Marin Water District.
Town of Windsor, thought we did have Town of Windsor. Town of Windsor,
This is Christina Goulart, Town of Windsor, and Mayor Sam Salmon is on as well.
thank you. Valley of the Moon Water District,
Matt Fulner, Valley Moon Water.
Marin Municipal Water District.
Paul Cellier, Marin Municipal.
And for other attendees, we have Veronica Blete, Armin Munavar, Bob Anderson, Chelsea Thompson, Claire Nordley, Colin Close, David Keller. Don Seymour will promote him. Engineering Department, not sure who that is. That might be Mary Grace Pawson. Let me just check. Mary Grace, is that you listed as Engineering Department? Mary Grace, can you hear me?
Chair, it's Drew McIntyre. There are no public comments received.
Mary Grace, is you signed in as Engineering Department?
Yes.
Thank you. I'll rename you in a moment. Let's see, Jake Spalding, Larry Russell, Lynn Rosselli, Margaret Gianova, Paul Selski, Shannon Katula, Stephen Hancock, and Tony Williams.
Is it just me or do I hear like another meeting kind of on top of ours?
I'm hearing it as well.
Okay, well, alrighty then. This is going to be a challenging morning. Let's see. So now that we have everyone present, are we ready to proceed? We have everyone promoted that needs to get promoted, and I'm going to give my computer a shot again while Drew takes over item 2. I believe, Drew, you're going to present this item.
Yes. Thank you, Madam Chair. So item 2 is for the WAC to adopt a resolution finding that there continues to be a state of emergency that would authorize the reason to meet remotely. The TAC did this at its TAC meeting about a month ago. This is something that's required by Assembly Bill 361. And so it's in front of the TAC this morning that would cover this meeting and then go for another 30 days. I'd be happy to answer any questions that the WAC has. Susan, it's back to you if you can hear me.
Okay, all right. Does anyone on the WAC have any questions? And unfortunately, it's hard for me to see hands at this point. Let's see. Let me see if I can. Oh, let's see. I am not seeing any hands. Then if no one has any hands to raise, we will move to public comment on this item. We are taking public comment on item 2. If you wish to make a comment via Zoom, please raise your hand. If you're dialing in via phone, please dial *9 to raise your hand. And Secretary Reyes, are there any comments?
There are no public comments.
Okay, because I see no hands either. So with that, Drew, did we get any written or verbal public comments?
We did not.
Okay, with that, then I would be looking for a motion.
I move that we approve the resolution.
Thank you for that. And do we have a second?
Second from Petaluma.
Thank you. Then could we get Recording Secretary Ethel to please take a roll call?
Yes, and I'm sorry, who moved, please? Was that Mr. Gibson?
No.
Oh.
John Foreman.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you, John.
Roll call, City of Cotati,
Yes.
City of Petaluma,
Yes.
City of Rohnert Park,
Yes.
City of Santa Rosa,
Aye.
City of Sonoma,
Aye.
North Marin Water District,
Jack's gone.
Town of Windsor,
Aye.
Valley of the Moon Water District.
Aye.
Okay, thank you for that. We will now move on to public comment. We'll open public comment for any items that are not on the agenda. If you wish to make a comment via Zoom, please raise your hand. If you are dialing in via phone, please dial *9 to raise your hand. And let's see, this is harder on a phone. Let's see. I am not seeing any raised hands. Are you, Secretary Reyes?
There are no raised hands.
No, okay, thank you for that. Drew, did you get any verbal or written public comment?
I did not.
Okay, thank you for that. So then we will move on to item 4, which is recap from the September 13th special WAC TAC meeting and approval of the minutes. Are there any questions or comments from that meeting from any of the WAC members? I am not seeing any hands. Then we will ask that there be public comment on this item. If you wish to make a comment via Zoom, please raise your hand. If you're dialing in via phone, please dial *9 to raise your hand. Secretary Reyes, are there any comments on item 4?
There are no live comments.
Okay, Drew, did we receive any written or verbal comments?
We did not.
Did not. Okay, then I would be looking for a motion on this item.
Motion by Petaluma.
Thank you, Mike.
Second by Valley of the Moon.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Could we?
A second from the city of Sonoma.
Pardon me, Jack, what did you say?
I second.
Oh, we already had a second, but thank you, Jack. We had 2 seconds. So with that, could we get a roll call vote?
City of Cotati,
Yes.
City of Petaluma,
Yes.
City of Roanoke Park,
Yes.
City of Santa Rosa,
Aye.
City of Sonoma,
Aye.
North Marin Water District,
Aye.
Town of Windsor,
Aye. I'm sorry. Aye.
thank you, Valley of the Moon Water District,
Aye.
Okay, thank you for that. And then I guess, Drew, I will turn the next item over to you.
Thank you, Chair Harvey. Okay, for the TAC meeting that was held on October 4th, this will be for the approval of the minutes. Does any of the TAC members have any questions or comments at all on the meeting minutes as presented? I don't see any hands raised, so we'll now go ahead and open it up for public comments. Again, this is agenda item number 5, October 4th, TAC meeting minutes approval. If you wish to make a comment via Zoom, please raise your hand or dial *9 via phone. Also, just let the record reflect that there were no previously recorded public comments on this item. So Secretary Reyes, any public comments that you see?
There are no public comment.
Okay, thank you. So we'll turn this back to the TAC. We're looking for a motion and a second before we're doing a roll call or a vote.
Move to approve from Colleen Ferguson, City of Sonoma.
Second, Craig Scott, City of Cotati.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion and a second. So Recording Secretary Reyes, would you please do a roll call?
actually it's 8th, but here we go, City of Cotati,
Oh, thanks.
Craig Scott, Cotati, yes.
City of Petaluma,
Mike Almarini, yes.
City of Roanoke Park,
Mary Grace Pawson, yes.
City of Santa Rosa,
Jennifer Burke, yes.
City of Sonoma,
Colleen Ferguson, yes.
North Marin Water District,
Drew McIntyre, yes.
Town of Windsor,
Sorry, Christina Goulart, Town of Windsor, yes.
Valley of the Moon Water District.
John Foreman.
Matt Holder, yes.
Okay, so thank you. That unanimously passes. Chair Harvey, I turn it back over to you for agenda item number 6.
Okay, thank you for that. I got my computer back up here, but I'm going to have to get off of my phone or we're going to get echo, okay?
Okay.
Okay.
We're trying to promote and it's still not working. My apologies, Ms. Harvey. I've given you permission to talk, but I still can't promote you through the computer sign-on for some reason.
Roberta, if she got a dedicated invite, you know, the one that comes from Zoom, would that help at all?
Well, she's showing up as an attendee. There's just some reason we're not being able to promote her as a panelist. Ms. Harvey, if you can hear me, I have given you permission to speak. Are you able to sign on with your phone again, perhaps? My apologies.
Roberta, it looks like she's muted. I can't tell if that's on your side or her side.
It looks like it's on her side. We've given her permission to speak. Thank you, Pam. All right, I think, Ms. Harvey, can you hear us? Ms. Harvey, I can see you, but I can't hear you. Drew, are you able to hear Ms. Harvey?
I am not.
Okay.
It looks like she might be frozen.
So Mike is vice chair. You might need to take over on this agenda while we try to get these technical problems fixed. You're muted, Mike.
Are we up to agenda item 6?
Yes.
Okay. I don't have the cheat sheet that staff prepared for Susan, so I'm gonna have to wing it here a little bit until
Mike?
she can get back on.
It sounds like we've got.
Mike?
Yes?
I don't know. I had to get back on my phone. I'll give it my best shot. So
We'll give you a minute. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. We are on the Water Supply Coordination Council. We met, and with that, we came up with this agenda. So we met on October 25th with the Water Supply Coordination Council. And before you, we have this agenda. Are there any questions from the WAC or TAC on this item?
Oh.
I am hearing no questions. I'm seeing no questions. So we will open this up to public comment on item 6. If you wish to make a comment via Zoom, please raise your hand. If you are dialing in via phone, please dial *9 to raise your hand. And Recording Secretary Reyes, are there any comments on this item?
There are no public comments.
Thank you so much. Drew, did you get any verbal or written comments on this item?
I did not.
Thank you, Drew. Then we will now move on to item number 7, which is the WAC TAC meeting schedule for 2022. And I see we have that before us, and it is the typical schedule that we usually have every year. And are there any questions on this from the WAC or the TAC? Hearing any, then we will open this item up for public comment. We're taking public comment on item 7. If you wish to make a comment via Zoom, please raise your hand. If you are dialing in via phone, please dial *9 to raise your hand. And Secretary Reyes, do we have any public comment on item 7?
There are no public comments.
Thank you so much. And Drew, did you receive any written or verbal comments on this item?
I did not.
Okay, then I would be looking for a motion and a second.
I move that we accept the WAC TAC schedule for next year.
Second from Petaluma.
Thank you for that. So then I would ask Recording Secretary Alpha to please do a roll call vote.
City of Cotati?
Yes.
City of Petaluma?
Aye.
City of Rohnert Park?
Yes.
City of Santa Rosa?
Aye.
City of Sonoma?
Aye.
North Marin Water District?
Aye.
Town of Windsor?
Aye.
Valley of the Moon Water District?
Aye.
Great, thank you for that. Looks like we have a plan for next year. So with that, I will move on to item 8, which is the water supply conditions and temporary urgency change order. And I believe that Don Seymour is going to take this one for us.
Yes. Good morning, Chairperson Harvey and members of the WAC. So as you can imagine, following last week's atmospheric river event, things have changed quite a bit in the Russian River watershed with respect to both water supply conditions and regulatory, and from a regulatory perspective also. Starting with water supply conditions, Lake Mendocino is now at about 18,000 acre feet, which is a gain of about 6,000 acre feet where we were about a week or so ago. It was down about 12,000, just a little above 12,000. So that's good news. Lake Sonoma is currently at a little over 120,000 acre feet. Lake Sonoma gained 15,000 acre feet from that event. It's both reservoirs are still rising slightly. And because there's so much natural flows in the system right now, we've been able to minimize our releases from both reservoirs to preserve that storage. Going to the top of the watershed to the Potter Valley project, Lake Pillsbury actually gained about 24,000 acre feet. It's now above 40,000 acre feet, which means the FERC variance it was PG&E was managing the project under is now expired, and they're operating under their normal license condition and RPA requirements. So kind of from the regulatory perspective, with all this natural flow in the system, the state board actually about 10 or 12 days ago, about 10 days ago, temporarily suspended all the curtailments to appropriative water rights in both the upper and lower Russian River. That means the 3 permits that 3 of the permits Sonoma Water has, 3 of the 4 that were curtailed are now that's been suspended. They're going to be periodically analyzing water availability to determine whether they have to reinstate some of those curtailments. Unlike the previous implementation where it was a blanket to every appropriative water right on the upper Russian River, and then on the lower they used a prior seniority system. On both the upper and lower, if they do need to implement, bring back the curtailments, it'll be under a seniority system for both the upper and lower. However, with the amount of natural flow in the system and forecasts for additional precipitation events, it's likely the curtailments will be lifted for at least through the end of November. Also, recently the state board on October 22nd issued, in response to the natural flow in the system, issued an amended order for Sonoma Water's temporary change petition. That order now ties the 20% mandatory reduction of our diversions to the curtailments. So since those curtailments are suspended, so is that 20% diversion reduction requirement. We're no longer under that, at least for a while, and I would say likely at least till the end of the month if we weren't to see additional storm events. This doesn't mean we can just start using lots of water again. We're still under the governor's proclamation from October 19th, which requires urban users to implement their shortage contingency plans to still meet that 15% conservation goal. But it does mean that we have this water available in the Russian River right now that could be used to offset, kind of shift water supply off of local groundwater, local surface water that both all the contractors may have been using, to shift that load now to Russian River sources while it's available. So maybe cutting back on groundwater pumping and surface water use for both North Marin and Marin Municipal. So we're coordinating with the contractors right now on how we can best use the available water in the Russian River right now to help offset. One thing that also happened about 2 weeks ago that's applicable that I think some of you may be aware of is PG&E announced that during routine maintenance and inspections of the powerhouse, they discovered that the transformer bank that is associated with the powerhouse has failed. This is really concerning because number one, it's a huge capital project. They estimate this isn't an off-the-shelf type of item. It has to be designed and manufactured specifically for the project. So they estimate if they were to move forward, it's an 18 to 24 month lead time, and the capital investment is on the order of $5 to $10 million. So a lot of uncertainty, and probably I would say unlikely they will move forward with that project right now with the uncertainty of the license. So the consequence of that is both physical and has a regulatory consequence also. From the physical perspective, they can bypass the powerhouse. They constructed the bypass a few years ago to meet their obligations for their FERC license and also their contract to Potter Valley Irrigation District. And that obligation varies between 45 cubic feet per second to a maximum of 135 cubic feet per second, depending on the water year classification and the time of year. Right now, that obligation is 45 cubic feet per second, and that will last at least through May. The maximum the transfer will be 45 cubic feet per second with respect to their obligation. The other type of transfer they can do is what's referred to as discretionary, and it generally applies to when their hydrologic conditions are met on the Eel River, where they can transfer additional water for hydropower production. They're right now reviewing both their water rights and also their FERC license and other legal issues which they feel might constrain them from making a discretionary transfer of water without it being used for hydropower production. So to give you a perspective of what that means, when they produce power, they can transfer up to 240 cubic feet per second through the powerhouse. And right now it looks like they're limited to 45. This is going to make it really difficult to fill that really big hole that's in Lake Mendocino right now. It's going to really depend on large precipitation events like we saw a little over a week ago, and a number of them to fill that reservoir, because it's going to be highly dependent on its own watershed. So we are meeting with water users in the Russian River, are meeting with PG&E, and plan on doing so ongoing to see how this unfolds. But right now, there's still a lot of questions and not a lot of answers yet from PG&E. So that's where we are with that project. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
So are there any questions from the WAC or TAC on this item? Let's see if I can. I don't see any from what I can see on my iPhone.
Susan, I have a question. This is Drew.
Certainly.
A question for Don. Don, you talked about, there are future meetings with PG&E to figure out whether these discretionary releases can occur if they're happening without generating power. And I was just curious, are there Upper Russian River managers meetings being scheduled as part of that ongoing discussion?
So the last meeting we had with PG&E did involve Upper Russian River water managers. So it included Potter Valley Irrigation District, Inland Water Power Authority, the Mendocino County Flood Control District, and Sonoma Water. And so at this time, they are we had met last week. There was some still outstanding questions PG&E was going to get back to us on, and we were going to be submitting additional questions if they came up. But we don't have the next meeting scheduled yet, but I do anticipate we will be meeting again with PG&E.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? I am not seeing any other questions. Secretary Reyes, do you see any other questions from the board?
I do not.
Okay, thank you. Then we will open this up for public comment on item 8. If you wish to make a comment via Zoom, please raise your hand. If you are dialing in via phone, please dial *9 to raise your hand. And do we have anyone from the public?
Yes, we do. David Keller.
Great. Thank you. Go ahead, David.
Thank you very much. Good morning, all. For Don, you say that at this point, diversions to East Branch Russian would be limited to 45 CFS through May or into the beginning of May, if I got that right. And do you have any sense about what the diversions could be particularly useful for helping fill Lake Mendocino after that date?
So we're really dependent to fill Lake Mendocino right now. It'd be those transfers that occur this winter, David.
Right.
And so obviously they're limited to 135 with the bypass. Under power production, they can do 240. So with how low Lake Mendocino is right now, if it could go up to the 135, a discretionary transfer up to 135 would be, a huge benefit to, trying to bring up that reservoir storage. As I mentioned, we had that was a really big atmospheric river event that was a week ago Sunday. And granted, the watershed was still fairly dry, and a fair amount of it was, some of it went to, starting to replenish that soil moisture. But, even with an event that size, we only saw 6,000 acre feet come into the reservoir. And so shy of supplemental transfers from the Potter Valley project, we're likely going to have to see 5 or 6 more events on the scale of what happened a week or so ago. So that would be a very, very wet year for us.
Right, which is not predicted. And if after, did you say May 1st, the 45 CFS is currently estimated by PG&E to be effective as their cap through May 1, did you say?
It's approximately May. I don't have the RPA in front of me, David, but it's approximately that springtime. It's when it changes when PVID starts taking, they go from 5 CFS up to 50 CFS.
Right.
And then depending on the water year classification, the minimum stream released in the East Branch, it can be anywhere from, if it's critical, it could be 5, and if it's normal, it could be 75 CFS. And so under a normal water year classification, the transfer starting around May or so could be as high as 135 max of the bypass.
That answer your question, Dave? Secretary Reyes, are there any other questions out there?
I see none.
Okay, thank you for that. Then we'll bring it back. Boy, it seems like we win some and we lose some. We got the storms, but then we have technical difficulties. We just can't seem to catch a good break. So thank you for that report, Dawn. Before we move on, does the WAC or TAC have any further questions? I am not seeing any. Then thank you again, Dawn. We will move on to item 9, which is the Sonoma County Water Agency.
Chair Harvey?
Yes.
We still have, Dawn has a report out for item 8A.
That's what I was moving to, 8A.
Okay.
The temporary allocation of water deliveries for November and December 2021. And Dawn gets that one also.
Yeah. And actually, is it okay if I just back up to the temporary change order just briefly? There was one thing I left out. I just wanted to let everybody know that Sonoma Water is preparing another petition to submit because the order we're currently managing the reservoirs in River 2 expires December 10th. And this is really being driven by this disconnect with the Potter Valley project right now. The fact that the powerhouse is down and there's such little transfer that we're going to be seeing. So we'll be filing a petition. It will be very similar to what we submitted last January. It will be, in January, it only applied to the upper Russian River. This will apply for the entire Russian River. But basically, we're going to be requesting that the water year classification be determined based on storage levels in Lake Mendocino. Because regardless of how wet it is in the Eel River, how much water is in Lake Pillsbury, we know we're not going to be getting much transfer. And so to try to set our minimum, determine our the water year classification for the Russian River, which sets the minimum stream flow requirements, wouldn't be correlated at all. So we're moving that index for determining the water year classification to Lake Mendocino. So I just wanted to mention that, and we're working on that right now. We hope to get that filed with the state board in the next week or so. With regards to the allocations, I think everybody recalls, Paul Piazza brought this to the last WAC meeting. However, based on and it was allocations for November, December, a methodology for those allocations. However, right now with the conditions in the Russian River watershed and the suspension of the curtailments and the 20% diversion reduction, those are no longer, we don't see those no longer being necessary. And so there will be, unless the suspension is lifted, which I mentioned earlier, I can't imagine that even under very dry conditions that would happen before the end of November. The allocations are no longer necessary.
Okay, great. Thank you for that, Don. Any of the WAC members or TAC members have any questions on that item? Let's see. I am not seeing any hands on that. So then we will ask if there are any public comments on item 8A. If you wish to make a comment via Zoom, please raise your hand. If you're dialing in via phone, please dial *9 to raise your hand. Secretary Reyes, do we have any comments on this? I don't see any hands myself.
We have no public comment.
Okay, thank you. And Drew, did you receive any written or verbal comments on this?
I did not.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Don, for all of this information. We'll just keep hoping that we get more rain and that we can work our way through this and we catch some breaks. So with that, we will move on to the Regional Water Supply Resiliency Study and Drought Management Options. And I believe that Jay is going to take this one for us.
Good morning, Chair Harvey and WAC and TAC members. I have a status update on the Regional Water Supply Resiliency Study. This is a study we reported to you in the past. As we move through the work involved with the study, and it's been a lot of activity over the summer and into the fall on this activity, focusing on one of the shortage scenarios, which is the drought scenario. Obviously, we've working with the TAC or really pushing that one forward and holding off on other shortage scenarios such as seismic. We'll catch up with that later, but given the obvious circumstances with the drought, we elected to move forward with that part of the, expedite that part of the study. And so this is a collective effort between Sonoma Water and working with our consultant, Jacobs Engineering, and Armin Munivar, who's attending this morning, and then also working with the TAC collectively. So just as a reminder, the overall concept of this study is recognizing that our regional system, all of us together, have interconnected systems, whether they're water supply systems like reservoirs or groundwater basins, as well as built infrastructure, pipelines and booster stations and storage reservoirs, et cetera. And we all operate within our own jurisdictional authorities and boundaries. And so the concept with this study is let's look and evaluate all of this infrastructure, natural and built infrastructure we collectively have by removing the jurisdictional boundaries and then applying certain what I call stress tests, these shortage scenarios. And again, the major ones are drought and seismic. And to do that, we've developed, or I should say Jacobs has developed a comprehensive model that covers the whole region in the north up to Potter Valley that we were just talking about, all the way down the south through MMWD, so down to Sausalito, I like to say, Potter Valley to Sausalito. And the connectivity of that system that exists through putting together and really recognizing the interconnection of our systems. And so the idea here is then to apply these stress tests and identify how well our system responds to these shortage scenarios, where the real vulnerable points might be, and then identifying are there resiliency projects that we could work on to move the needle for overall water shortage resiliency, whether it's a very acute emergency like an earthquake, or if it's a longer term emergency like drought. And so that's the idea. And then one of the benefits, there's a few benefits of this, obviously, is identifying those vulnerabilities and identifying potential projects. But just the fact of the process working together, Sonoma Water and the contractors on this, there's a lot of intangible benefits, I think, collectively understanding all of our systems and the strengths and weaknesses therein, but also identifying from a regional sense and hopefully agreeing on some projects that we can put forward to grant funding. That is kind of a high level of the study and what the concept and what it's intended to do or achieve. If we could go to the next slide. And this slide, really, if you look on the picture on the right, this is, I mentioned this model. This is that picture on the right is a schematic of what the model, this regional model that Jacobs has built looks like. And there's a whole lot of information. Each of the contractors has worked with Jacobs to make sure that the model has the appropriate information, whether it's historic hydrology or engineering parameters for the respective systems, from Sonoma Water System to each of the contractor systems. And again, we're using that model then to really apply stress tests for water shortages and also identifying key metrics that we're going to use to identify resiliency and drought impacts, or water shortage impacts, I should say. Next slide. This just shows you the overall 3 phases of the project. We're in phase 2. We reported to you last, I believe, after we completed the work plan and scoping document last year. And we're in phase 2. In the part of it, we're working on the drought, as I said. We're going to catch up and get the other water shortage scenarios after we get through the drought analysis. And then phase 3 moving forward is really a modification or update and maintenance of this model. When we built this model, we hopefully will continue to use this model with a process of engagement by the contractors in Sonoma Water into the future to periodically reevaluate regional water resource planning. So the idea is we've invested in developing this tool, and we've developed a process to use the tool together. Let's keep using it and updating as new information comes along. Next slide. From that work plan, we identified these tasks here you can see. And as I mentioned, we are fast tracking the drought scenarios. And we're very busy right now in tasks 4 through 7. I just noticed there seems to be a typo in that. We don't have a task 5 in there, but excuse that. But task 4, 6, 7, and 8 is really what we're focused on now. And the model has been developed and it has been validated, as you'll see, based on historical data. And it really responds and characterizes historical information and data like reservoir levels, river levels, et cetera, pretty well. And now what we're doing is we're developing different drought scenarios, and I'll talk about that. And then the next step is once you use the model and you forecast what future drought scenarios might look like, these are those stress tests, then you identify where the vulnerabilities are. And then we work together on what kind of projects. They can be projects or they can be management actions, operational changes. But anyway, what kind of mitigation measures can we apply that maybe wasn't apparent when we're all just focused on our own individual systems? And so that's what we're going to be looking at here. We're starting to look at now and in the coming days and weeks on the drought scenarios. And then ultimately there will be a study report and then ongoing efforts with this project as we now move to the seismic and other hazard drivers. Next slide. So the decision support model, as I mentioned, covers the Russian River and Potter Valley system. and then Sonoma Water's transmission system, and then each of the retail customers' systems. It synthesizes and combines all of those. And this is kind of the first time that's been done. The model inputs, as I mentioned, are reservoir and river flows, and not just our reservoirs, Marin Municipal, North Marin's reservoirs, member agency demands, water demands, local supplies is a key part of all this. And then the model takes into consideration certain rules that we operate under or engineering constraints due to the built infrastructure that we have to consider too. Next slide. So I mentioned that the validation, where we look at historical data and we compare key metrics like river flows and reservoir levels, et cetera, and that has been wrapped up for the model by Jacobs, and the validation period they looked at was 2009 to 2017. That's the period that overall it's a fairly dry period, and also it's recent enough that it reasonably represents existing land use. You don't want to go too far back into the past because if you went back in the 1970s, for example, the land use was completely different, the water use, et cetera. So we want to get something fairly recent, but also that has, I think, representative hydrology. And so this is the range that was identified as fitting those two main criteria. And then the next step is once you validate it based on the historical data, you use the model then to predict future scenarios due to different droughts. Next slide. And so I think I've just covered this, but Jacobs has completed the validation period. Now we're pivoting over to now simulating the drought scenarios. Next slide. And to do that, Jacobs has also met individually with each of the factors in Marin Municipal to get their own ideas, to put them together with different drought management options or practices. And there's four different, just in general, four major categories. Of course, there's increasing supply, reducing demand, improving operations, and then modifying maybe policy or regulations in order to be more flexible or adaptive to respond to these shortage scenarios. Next slide. And so the drought scenarios we're looking at in the model for forecasting are one that's been done, and this is in process right now, but one has been done, has just been completed, is taking the last 2 years, 2020, 2021 drought, and then adding on the other significant dry years, a 5-year period, 76, 77 drought, which were roughly equivalent to the 20 and 21, and then including that out for a 5-year forecast from basically right now for another 5 years. And so you would bring in 76 and 77, which were extremely dry, and then 78, 79, 80, which were wetter. Certainly 78 was wetter. And so that's one scenario. And then we're also looking at 20 climate forecasts per the California Fourth Climate Assessments. There's 10 models with 2 emission scenarios each for climate forecasts that California has identified as most representative within that ensemble. And so we're going to be looking at those drought scenarios too. So we're not just looking at one type of drought, we're looking at multiple types of stressors. And then we'll identify the drought impacts, as I said, and then run the model with certain mitigation or programs and projects to see how we can improve resiliency against these impacts. Next slide. And we have certain objective criteria for comparing which drought measures are going to be most effective. And so it's important to have those objective criteria so we can compare apples to apples. And there's performance, how well do your reservoir levels respond, for example. But there's also other criteria too for like costs, environmental impacts, feasibility, et cetera, as you can see there. And so overall, we'll be weighting these different criteria, different solutions, if you will, or projects and management actions, and finding out which ones really should be pursued at a higher priority. I don't think we'll ever remove anything off of the list, but there will be some that will rise to the top, and those are the ones that we can put forward and look at potentially implementing and, possibly seeking funding, federal or state funding also. So I think I have one more slide. Just on next steps. As I said, this is a very active project right now. And Jacobs is modeling the other drought scenarios and then has, I think, about 15 different types of projects that all the contractors have put together collectively. And we've sorted through and kind of got a list of about 15. And we're going to then run through this process with the TAC and using the model to really see which ones shine and which ones we want to prioritize. And so that's the work that's going to be conducted here in what's being conducted right now and through the next few weeks, so that in the end of the day, our drought assessment part of the study will have a pretty good understanding of which measures are going to move the needle on drought resiliency. And with that, I think that's all the slides I have. I'm happy to answer questions. And we also have Armin here too, if there's anything at depth on the model and assumptions that you have.
Thank you for that, Jay. That's a lot of information to kind of absorb, but great work. And I think it's very timely considering the situation that we're in, that we moved this one up. So anyone on the WAC or TAC have any questions? Please raise your hand. I'm kind of looking to see. Drew, did you have any questions?
Do not.
No, not seeing any hands go up. Okay, so with that, I will open this item up to public comment. We are now taking public comment on item 9A. If you wish to make a comment, please raise your hand via Zoom, or if you're dialing in, please dial *9. Secretary Reyes, are you seeing any hands?
Yes, David Keller.
Okay, great, David.
All right, back again. Thank you, Jay. Really appreciate the work being done. On the assumptions, in terms of getting to reduce demand, is this accounting for both the required and other population increases within the service area?
So we're looking at conservation, urban conservation, as well as agricultural and groundwater conservation too. And some of the work that's been done in the draft groundwater sustainability plans will be leveraged for this too. There's been a lot of work there. Looking at a 50-year forecast for water use across all of those sectors too. So we'll be leveraging a lot of that work.
So even with for instance, the path that we're on in terms of the RENA numbers for housing, you're still showing a demand decrease in drought scenarios?
Well, we haven't finished running the drought scenarios, but the work we did that we're using from the groundwater sustainability plan does consider the ARENA numbers and the Department of Finance numbers also. But remember, we're really focusing here. We're looking at a 5 and then a 10-year also. So it's the horizon we're looking at right now is going to be a shorter horizon than, say, the Urban Water Management Plan or the SIGMA planning too. So some of those factors are a little bit, for the longer, they come into play for the longer term than the next couple of years, et cetera.
Right. Okay. And then the other question is, given the current transfers available at Potter Valley Project, which is that's happening now and effective for probably 2 years, if not longer, depending on what PG&E wants to do and what happens, what the ultimate disposition of that project. Are you accommodating in the modeling wintertime transfers only from the eel to Lake Mendocino, or does that not affect supplies for water agency customers?
It does impact. It's more of an indirect impact, but it certainly needs to be considered. And this is, as Don reported, this is kind of breaking news. So this is one of those things where we calibrated the model using that historical range, but on the forecasting, I think we need to do some evaluation on what we're going to look at for the model looking under these brand new conditions. So that's an area of active consideration that we have to take into account. But as Don just mentioned, this is kind of breaking news. So
okay,
we're working on that.
as Rosanna Dana always said, it's always something.
Yes,
so,
it is.
Thank you.
Thank you, David. I am not seeing any other questions from the public. Secretary Reyes, are you seeing any other hands? I don't see any other hands.
I don't see any either.
Okay, thank you for that. Drew, did you get any written or verbal comments on this item?
I did not.
Okay, so thank you for that. Then we will move on to the next item, 9B, approve the WAC letter of support for Santa Rosa Plain Drought Resiliency Project grant application. And I believe this is you again, Jay.
Yes, it is. So this is a letter of support, a draft letter of support that we're asking the WAC to approve and submit in support of a project that Sonoma Water is working on. And indeed, it's one of those regional resiliency projects, one of the projects that's being evaluated in the prior study. And this entails, and we've talked about this before, Sonoma Water has 3 wells in its water transmission system in the Santa Rosa Plain that were initially installed in the 1977 drought and have been used since that drought through the last drought, which ended in 2016. They've been used for every single drought since then to help mitigate, drought impacts. In addition, they were operated for 10 consecutive years, continuous basis, 24/7, 365 days a year from 1999 to 2009. So these wells are an important supplement to our Russian River supplies in that they diversify our portfolio, especially in times such as we're experiencing now with this drought. So I mentioned that these have been used for every drought since 1977. However, since the last drought ended in 2016, we didn't use them because we used them, except for that one 10-year period. We use those for periods of water shortages in the Russian River. However, between 2016 and now, there were some changes in state water quality regulations having to do with chlorine contact time, the amount of time chlorine's in contact with the water before we could put it in our transmission system. The net effect was that we were unable to operate those wells for this drought because of those recent regulatory changes. And so we have been busy, I think, as everybody knows, and we've reported to this body through the summer and into this fall, activating one of those wells, the Todd Road well, which is, I'm happy to say, is currently operational and providing needed water supply. We made the fix for that well and we got it operating thanks in part to funding we received from the County of Sonoma to help us with that. And what this project is kind of the second phase of the overall project, which is focusing on the other two wells which remain inactive, the Occidental Road well and the Sebastopol Road well. And what we have to do is we have to construct a similar type of solution that we did for the Todd Road well to get it moving to improve chlorine contact. However, what we also are adding to these two well sites is having them also, the sites, be able to recharge Russian River potable drinking water into the aquifer so that when water is used during the drought periods and the dry seasons, we can then in the wintertime and when winter water is available, like right now, we would be able to utilize that water, that natural flow, to recharge the aquifer. And so this helps create sustainable groundwater conditions. And it's really important in our current water management structure that we don't just pump the water out, but that we also replace it and recharge the groundwater aquifer for sustainability. These three wells are in the Santa Rosa Plain groundwater basin, and there's a groundwater sustainability agency. Many of you are involved with that. And so this project also aligns well with achieving groundwater sustainability, and the draft groundwater sustainability plan for that GSA specifies that in order to for this basin to comply with SGMA, that these types of projects, aquifer storage and recovery, are going to be needed in this basin. So this funding request we're planning to put forward to activate the wells and to have the recharge. We're putting this forward to try to seek state drought emergency funding. And so there's quite a potential opportunity here for the water contractors, but also for the Groundwater Sustainability Agency to realize some benefits here on leveraging this drought funding to kind of move the needle for drought resiliency for the water contractors, but also for groundwater sustainability in the longer term for the Groundwater Sustainability Agency. So this letter is really is a draft letter of support we're seeking from the Water Advisory Committee to support our application to move forward and seek funding to support activation of these two wells, with also the ability to recharge at these two well sites too. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Jay. Anyone from the WAC or TAC have any questions on this item? Please raise your hand.
Chair Harvey.
Yes, Drew.
I just want to mention that, we don't have an official roll call vote for this. We're just looking, for you to obtain a consensus, from the WAC members to authorize you to sign the letter.
Okay, that was going to be my next question, is I noticed that this had approved, but we didn't have a formal. So thank you for answering my question before I could answer it. You're reading my mind, Drew.
Right.
So with that, are there any questions? I'm not seeing any hands. So we'll move to public comment on item 9B. If you wish to make a comment via Zoom, please raise your hand. If you're dialing in via phone, please dial *9 to raise your hand. And let's see here. I am not seeing any hands raised. Are you, Secretary Reyes?
There are none.
There are none. Okay, then I will bring it back, and I am looking to see, I guess, from a consensus perspective, does anyone have any objections to us putting forth this letter? Please either speak or raise your hand if you have any objections. And Drew, did you get any written or verbal format while people are deciding if they need to raise their hand or not?
I did not receive any earlier pre-recorded public comments.
Okay, so if no one objects, I'm not seeing any objections, then I will take that as consensus for us to move forward and sign this letter. So thank you for that. And now we will move on to item 9C, which is the Water Smart Water and Energy Efficiency Study Grant application. And I believe that Paul Piazza is going to take this item. Is that true, Paul?
Yes, it is. Good morning,
Thank you.
Chair Harvey and other members of the WAC and TAC. So this item essentially is tied to the resiliency study that's previously mentioned by Jay, and specifically relevant to some of the drought mitigation options and the evaluation criteria that are used in the study in terms of environmental impacts, the cost and feasibility, its energy use. And all of those projects in the resiliency study hoping to better improve our chances for grant funding. And so with that in mind, the partnership is submitting an application to the Bureau of Reclamation for the Water and Energy Efficiency Grant that is currently open. Applications for that project are due this Wednesday. And so we are working rapidly to complete that application. We've solicited input from 8 of the partners in the partnership to put forward a couple of programs that focus predominantly on turf removal. As you can imagine, turf removal in our area has one of the biggest impacts in terms of reductions in peak demand, which is one of the constraints that we see during droughts, times of droughts. But in addition to turf removal, this project also focuses on indoor efficiency upgrades regarding efficient clothes washers, and then also gets at the ability to provide additional information to homeowners through a home water monitoring device. And this is a device made available through a company called Flume that essentially provides an indicator of, or a very granular indicator of actual use in the home, provides leak detection services, and helps influence behavior change by very easily detailing to homeowners how their water is being used and to prioritize actions that they can take in their home to become more efficient. The funding opportunity, it's a 3-year grant. We are proposing a total project cost of just over $4 million. The reimbursement funding from the Bureau is limited to a maximum of $2 million. And again, primarily focused on turf removal for this project. But I'm happy to take questions. There are additional funding opportunities that we are currently tracking that are coming our way from the state. And we are going to be working with our other partners to make those applications a priority as well. And perhaps focused on some additional measures. I would remind you also, we do have current funding that is being worked on through Proposition 1. That funding was divided up between North Coast and Bay Area opportunities. And virtually all of the partners are involved in either some aspect of the Bay Area or the North Coast Prop 1 funding. And so those are really just getting underway, finalizing agreements. And so we have additional work on top of these new opportunities that we're continuing to maintain.
Thank you, Paul. Does any of the WAC or TAC members have any questions on this item? I am not seeing any raised hands. So with that, I will open this item up for public comment, item 9C. If you wish to make a comment via Zoom, please raise your hand. If you are dialing in via telephone, please dial *9 to raise your hand. And I am not seeing any raised hands from the attendees. Secretary Reyes, are you seeing any?
There are no other raised hands.
Okay, thank you for that. Then that we will bring it back. That closes public comment on that. Drew, did you have any written or verbal comments on this item?
I did not.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that presentation, Paul. And hopefully you guys can speed that up and get that in on Wednesday. And every little bit helps in helping us get the savings that we need. So thank you for that. So we will move on to item 10, which is the Sonoma Marin Water Saving Partnership. And we will start with item A, which is the 2021 water production relative to 2013 benchmark and river diversion reduction relative to the 2020 benchmark. And I believe that, Drew, you're going to take this.
Yes, thank you, Chair Harvey. So this is our regularly recurring summary here of overall water production. You can see here when we look at back to our historical benchmark of 2013, September water use is down 28%. Just going back and comparing it to where we were in 2020, a year ago, it was down 9%. So we're significantly additional water conservation significantly increased this year with the ongoing drought. If you look at table 2, which is water usage to date for this calendar year, it shows that for the entire year to date, it's down 20%. Last year in 2020, it was down 11%. And then you have in these charts, you have other additional presentation of water use data in chart 2 going back to the 1995s. And then a little bit different that we've been carrying through this year on the next chart is related to the requirement to reduce deliveries or diversions from the Russian River by 20%. There's an ongoing tracking here. You can see that the 20% diversion reduction there is shown in the rust color, and then the actual performance of the aggregate for the water contractors is in blue, and actual diversion reductions are right now 23.5%. So, meeting and exceeding that 20% diversion reduction. So that's it. And I guess I'll bring it to the WAC and TAC for any questions on the current water production versus the earlier benchmarks. I don't see any hands raised from the WAC or the TAC. So we'll go ahead and open this now up for public comment. If you'd like to make a comment on this item, again, this is agenda item 10A. Please raise your hand in Zoom or dial *9 via phone. And let the meeting minutes reflect that I did not receive any earlier pre-recorded public comments.
Great.
Secretary Reyes, do you see any public comments? Any hands raised?
There are no public comments.
Okay. All right, then we will move to item 10B, drought outreach messaging. And this will be tag teamed by Barry Dugan and Paul Piazza from the agency.
Thank you, Drew. Good morning, Chair Harvey and members of the WAC. I'm going to share my screen if I may. Oh, well, you have it up there. In any case, so Paul and I will provide the regular public outreach update for this meeting. If you want to go to the next slide, Paul will share about the drop-by event.
Thanks, Barry. So the partnership conducted a third drought drop-by event on October 9th at 5 locations in Marin and Sonoma counties. The picture you're seeing is at one of the parks that the City of Santa Rosa staff maintained for this drought outreach. And as just a quick reminder, we were distributing drought kits to customers that included WaterSense, EPA WaterSense certified shower heads and faucet aerators, automatic or self-closing hose nozzles, toilet leak detection dye tablets, and a variety of other water-saving information for customers to pick up. Of course, a bucket was used to convey those materials and was something we were putting forward for them to utilize for reuse of water in their house, either through capture of rinse water at their kitchen sinks or through their shower and tub, to reuse for either plants or other opportunities in the home that they could use that water as an additional savings during the drought. You can see also lawn signs being provided to help amplify the message that water savings is needed by our communities. Next slide.
So you can see that we continue with our drought messaging and bilingual drought messaging. And, you know, given last week's storm, we're going to continue with our turn your irrigation off message, and that will continue into the foreseeable future. As you can imagine, we're discussing some nuancing of the message, given that, given how much rain we received, to continue to stress that this one storm doesn't get us out of this drought. And it'll be a long way before we're out of the drought. So that'll be our continued messaging. Next slide.
So part and parcel with the outreach messaging campaign, we recently completed a series of gray water webinars. For those of you who are aware, gray water essentially is the reuse of water in your home from your laundry. It could be used from your bathroom sinks, showers, and tubs, and beneficially put to use in the landscape. So the series was a partnership partnering with the nonprofit Daily Acts to provide a three-part series. The first part really was a general overview webinar of the opportunities and information about gray water in the home and some of the code requirements and concerns that people need to be aware of to reutilize that water safely. The second was focused on laundry landscape systems. Essentially, these are DIY projects that enable homeowners to repurpose laundry rinse water from their clothes washers to make available subsurface in their landscape to water plants. And then the third webinar was focused on the more complex systems, the single and branched drain gray water systems that would require a permit locally to implement. And so it was a successful series. The introduction, unfortunately, occurred on Game 5 of the Giants-Dodgers series. And so we had nearly 400 people registered for that webinar, but saw participation drop to 125, which we consider successful nonetheless. We had close to 130 folks registered for the second webinar and 65 in attendance, and about 110 registered for the October 28th. And I don't have those final participation numbers, but all in all, great attendance and a great way to get information about the drought-proof source of water available in people's homes. This is going to be amplified by our partners that also conduct follow-up workshops for their constituents specifically, including more DIY approach type workshops that help break down barriers to participation in gray water for those that want to undertake the project but might have some reservations about how to get it done. Next slide.
So this is our last slide, but I just wanted to follow up on Paul's statement that the encouraging thing about the gray water series was that there's significant crossover between gray water, interest in gray water, and baseball fans. So that is a market that we're going to continue to try and reach a segment, and I'll do my best. So finally, this is a program that we have launched in partnership with all the partners. With again, Santa Rosa Water taking the lead on developing the marketing. Are you a super water saver? So all of our partners are encouraged to reach out to their customers, answer a few questions, send in a photo, and you can get your 15 to 20 minutes of fame. This just happens to be one of my former neighbors in Santa Rosa, Abigail, and I do know that she is a legitimate water saver. So these are real people. So we're encouraging everyone to participate in this program. And Paul and I are happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thanks, Paul and Barry. I was looking at Susan. It's still me. Here we go.
Yeah, that's right. I'm waiting to see you, Drew, with the little glasses on.
Yeah.
We'll have to get you some of those glasses.
All right, I'll try to remember that. So I do have a question for Paul on the gray water webinar series. For the folks who were not able to attend, are those webinars, were they recorded and would they be available for folks to view later?
Great point, Drew. Thanks for the reminder. Yeah, we do have those as a recorded product that'll be available on the partnership's website for an indefinite period of time for those interested in following up that weren't able to attend. And so we'll be sure and include in our social media marketing additional follow-up information to let people know that those exist.
Okay,
so Paul, since you have the information for those people, can you push that video out to those that were unable to attend?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
and that information was also shared as part of the outreach materials for those interested in attending the event. There was language in that in the initial registration materials to let people know that they would be available as future recordings.
Great, thank you.
It's always a balancing act. If you let people know they don't have to attend to get it, they tend to miss all the fun. So we like to encourage them to take part and then emphasize that they'll be recorded and shared later.
Okay, thanks for that. And then any other questions from the WAC or TAC? Again, we're on agenda item number 10B, drought outreach messaging. I don't see any hands raised from the WAC or the TAC. So we will open this up for public comment. If you wish to make a comment via Zoom, please raise your hand or dial *9 if you're participating by phone. And also let the meeting minutes reflect that I did not receive any pre-recorded public comments earlier. Secretary Reyes, do you see any public comments?
I see none.
Okay, thank you. So we will now move to agenda item number 10C, the 2020. Is this 2021, Paul? Yes. Sorry, it's a typo there. 2021 EPA Water Sense Excellence Award. And Paul, you want to start this? Yeah.
Sure. Thank you, Drew. Appreciate it. So I'm very happy to announce that the Sonoma Run Saving Water Partnership is the recipient of the 2021 EPA Water Sense Sustained Excellence Award for its Qualified Water Efficient Landscaper program. As you know, we've been the recipient of a few of these awards in the past. And in this particular case, it's really gratifying given it occurred during a pandemic year when everybody was really struggling to maintain the functionality of their programs that rely on direct to customer connections. And so for this particular award, I want to highlight that the staff here at Sonoma Water that manages the Quell program did an amazing job of quickly transitioning to in-person trainings to allow not only for the program to continue in a virtual basis, online trainings and online proctoring, but to do it in a way that makes those solutions available to all of the professional certifying agencies that also provide Quell trainings in 5 Western states and a province in Canada. So the reach that we were able to achieve during the constraints of the COVID continued, and additional water savings was able to be achieved as a result from this quick pivot in our ability to offer these trainings virtually. As was mentioned with the drought drop by, we do have additional programs to touch base with customers, to provide information about quail trainings, to build a market for landscape contractors that obtain certification as landscape irrigation auditors through quail, to be able to market those programs to their customers and to create value and demand in the program by educating customers about the benefit of quail training in terms of both keeping landscapes healthy and productive and providing beauty and function at their homes, but in a way that minimizes additional water use. So I'm super excited about the award. Want to really provide thanks to Chris Loomis and Brian Lee and my staff for all the work that they've done to keep the quail program moving forward productively. Certainly want to thank EPA for their continued support for this and our other programs. And to also thank all of our professional certifying agencies, which includes the California Water Efficiency Partnership, Metropolitan Water District in Southern California, San Diego, and a host of others that continue to grow and make this program a success. And with that, I'm also honored to make introductions to Veronica Bletti, who is the chief of the Water Sense branch at the EPA, who's joining us this morning and was kind enough to be willing to provide a few words on behalf of EPA and our partnerships award this year. So if she has been elevated to presenter, I'm going to allow Veronica to say a few words.
Good morning, members of the WAC and TAC. Thank you to Paul. I did not share my talking points with him, but he pretty much nailed like a lot of my talking points. But it's okay because you can hear them twice, and that way they'll really just get embedded into your brain. So I do manage the Water Sense program here with my spokes down Flo. Maybe some of y'all have seen her at some point. And I'm really happy to join you. Water Sense is focused on helping everybody learn how to save water and by using those more efficient products, practices, and professionals. And we really value our partners because you all are out there on the front lines helping to spread the word about water efficiency. And so we spend a lot of our time actually working on resources development for the water utility community because you guys are engaging with the consumers every single day. Over the past 15 years, our more than 2,000 partners from around the country have helped us save a total of 5.3 trillion gallons and more than 108 billion in consumer water bills and energy bills. So I think some of you might remember me from last year, like early on, I guess like in the first 6 months of the pandemic. I don't know. I think I was still I don't know if I was still working at home at that point. I'm the only one here at EPA in the office, so I'm holding down the fort in DC. But you know that one of the highlights of my year is the annual recognition of our partners at the Water Smart Innovations Conference. It happens in Las Vegas in the first week of October. But with the ongoing travel restrictions, we weren't able to attend, and neither were many of our partners. So we had 34 award winners, and in early October, we presented 17 awards to those who were able to attend, but the rest of them were sort of doing whatever we can to get the word out and to recognize them in front of their leadership. So I'm happy to recognize the Sonoma Marin Saving Water Partnership today as a Sustained Excellence winner for your efforts in 2020. And this is your 5th Sustained Excellence Award. Paul pointed out you guys have received a lot of recognition. This is your 5th for Sustained Excellence. And it reflects your fine ongoing work with your Qualified Water Efficient Landscaper program. And as he said, last year has been tough. And I think if we all learned anything, it's really the power of resilience. We all learned how to immediately learn how to use Zoom and Teams and every other sort of remote virtual meeting device that we had. And our partners really showed that they had the ability to adapt to whatever was thrown at them. As he said, you had to pivot your programs. And our PCO programs, we know, were really challenged because they were used to doing all their training and courses and exams really in person out in the field in some cases. And so it was very challenging for them to change their programs. And they hit the drawing board. And the Quell staff reached out to us pretty shortly after the shutdowns began to talk to us about a strategy to shift to online classes and to shift to remote proctoring, which was a challenge because nobody had really done it for our specifications. Certainly at universities they were doing it, but you guys were sort of the first to step out and do that within our PCO community. And during 2020, you also took the time to do a really great rework of your website. It's in English and Spanish, which is nice to see. And you also have a great portal for your WaterSense welcome materials that you make available. I kind of looked at it and I was like, I wanted to talk to my staff and say, like, can we put together something that looks as nice as this portal that you guys have put together? And I know that a lot of the partners have done things that they had to do to respond to the pandemic, but they're going to stick with those going forward. And I think a lot of the virtual offerings that you started offering and courses were so successful. I think you'll probably keep them up afterwards. And Paul kind of hit on this. Something I like about Quell is that because it's a program of the partnership, there's a connection with the broader efforts of the partnership to encourage efficient water use. And outdoor water use is such a big deal in California, and with the drought going on, it's not going to go away. So being able to link those two programs is really great. You can share the program offerings with the other offerings that you have, whether it's a public event, whether it's a course, whether it's media outreach that you're doing in social or traditional media. If it's the smart home evaluations that you pivoted this year to make more of a DIY thing, but you could also share the practices that are associated with efficient irrigation. And so it was great that one side of the house is kind of supporting the other side of the house. And I think that's what is true and what has made the program attractive to a lot of your adopting PCOs, which many of them are associated with utilities. And speaking of the adopting PCOs, I don't know that you could have imagined when you set the program up that you'd have 20 other utilities in California and other Western states, and as he said, even in the provinces in Canada, who really wanted to emulate and have a program that was just like yours. And I know it's a big responsibility, but golly, it's a really, you guys have a lot of influence. You have a lot of influence around the professionals, whether they're available for work or hire, or if they're working at utilities or with commercial businesses, to really set what water efficiency looks like for irrigation and sustainable landscapes. Because we set minimum requirements for water efficiency, WaterSense, but you have the ability to add additional components to your exams. So it's really exciting, it's big, and I can't really say enough about the efforts of the partnership. I think you guys are very deserving of the recognition for the hard work that you do. So as I said last year, I get excited every time I go to the website because then I find out something else that you're doing that's really exciting. And this year the excitement was double because I saw you updated your Quell website. Well, then I just saw you just updated this month, or last month now, I guess, November 1st. You updated last month the Sonoma Marine City Water Partnership website, which also looks fabulous, and I'm going to go and dig into that some. So I look forward to seeing what the partnership has in store for the future, especially with the Quell program. And I just wish you big congratulations. Oh, the award he's got. I don't think the award is physically that large. It's not bigger than Paul's head.
I would say EPA really stepped up.
Yeah, we have a life-size award. But I just congratulations and best wishes for more achievements. And I hope to see Paul next year at WSI and hand an award in person for your efforts in 2021. So that's all I have for you today. If you have any questions, I'm happy to take them. But again, congratulations.
Great. Thank you again, Paul, to you and the agency staff and everybody else that participated in making this award happen. Kudos. And to Ms. Bleddy, it's great to see you again the second year, and it's really good that you could take some time out of your day, to just sort of reinforce the efforts that the partnership has been doing, and we really appreciate those words of support as well.
I wasn't kidding when I say it's like one of the favorite things I do during the year.
Yeah, that's great. That's good to hear. Because I'm sure there are a lot of things that, are definitely not up there on the list for one of the most favorites. So,
yeah.
Any other questions from the WAC or TAC? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and open this up for public comment. Again, this is agenda item 10C on the 2021 EPA WaterSense Excellence Award. If you're participating via Zoom, please raise your hand or dial *9 by phone. And while we're waiting on that, let the meeting minutes reflect that I did not receive any pre-recorded public comments on this agenda item. Secretary Reyes, do you see any hands raised?
We have no hands raised.
Okay, great. Thank you for that. So that'll turn us over to agenda item number 11, biological opinion status update, and back to Chair Harvey.
All right, thank you. And I believe that Pam is going to lead us through this item.
I am. Thank you. You have it up there in front of me.
No, thank you.
Hopefully, everybody can see what's up on the screen right now. So I'll run through this as quickly as I can. On the fish flow project, there's not really any update. I believe we updated the timing of the draft environmental impact report at the last, at least TAC meeting, maybe not WAC meeting. I don't recall. So we are looking at a draft not until 2022 for a number of reasons, including the fact that everything keeps changing at the Potter Valley, which changes what our project description may look like. So anyways, that's where we're at with that. As far as the Dry Creek Enhancement project goes, our contractor who was out there this year working on Reach 5 of the project is completed with their work, and they finished their work in late September, and they're fully demobilized from the project. And you can actually see the photo here is of that project just this last week during all the rain. So you can it's pretty bank full in there, and the project is mostly underwater. As far as habitat monitoring and maintenance goes, our environmental staff continues to conduct physical and biological surveys on projects that have already been constructed. And they are doing that to identify habitat that is, to quantify that habitat, as well as determine if there's any changes needed for maintenance of the projects once they're completed. There's a little bit longer description here of exactly what they're doing, but I won't go through that. So they also just in October did a post-construction drone flight of the work that's been done out there. They have a second flight. It was scheduled for last week. I don't know if that happened or not, but they wanted to check out the projects out there once the water started to recede. You can see this photo here where the water is starting to recede. You can see sort of the high water mark up on those berms. And so hopefully there wasn't a lot of damage to the sites, which very recently completed with the 3,000 cubic feet per second. That was coming down Dry Creek last Sunday and Monday. On phases 4 through 6, phase 4, the bid documents are ready to go. And the Corps did complete review of the right-of-way agreement modifications that were being requested by some of the property owners who are participating in the project. The Corps provided those results to us, and we are now reaching out to the property owners to either give them feedback or possibly even revise the agreements with them as necessary. So we're getting closer on the right-of-way for that particular phase 4, and are looking forward to construction next year in 2022 on that phase. Our consultants have completed, I think this was reported before, but they have completed the 99% design submittals for phases 5 and 6. And they will begin phase 5 in 2023, construction in 2023, and begin construction of phase 6 in 2024. Right-of-way appraisals are completed for phase 5, and the offers are being presented to the property owners right now. And they're working on right-of-way for phase 6 at this point. Let's see, the next bottom of the page here, we do have a 30% design package for a additional site. This is not part of the phases that I've described up to this point, but an additional site upstream of a prior site that was completed. They're doing this work in case we need extra mileage, so to speak, for the project to meet our requirement under our biological opinion. So they held an internal design review meeting in September, and they are starting to meet with the property owners. Actually, it looks like they met with the property owners in October, mid-October, to show them the plans and get some feedback from them. So the property owners in general, I thought sounded like they were okay with what was being proposed. And they'll be setting up on-site meetings with regulatory agencies in December to get sort of preliminary approval of those projects, or that project, excuse me. Next page, as far as fish monitoring goes, we did have to remove the camera, the underwater video system camera, and all the accoutrements that go with that from the Mirabel fish ladder before the storm last Sunday, or Saturday and Sunday. So that has been taken out of the facility. It's not certain whether or not we'll be able to reinstall that into the facility in order to be able to do more video monitoring this winter. And if we're unable to do so, according to our records, October 23rd, which is the day that the system was removed, is the earliest date we've ever had to stop doing that video monitoring since 2000. So that's a pretty long period of time. Unfortunately, we only saw about 38 Chinook and a few steelhead since we started counting fish this year. That was due to a lot of things, not just low flow out in the river system, but also the estuary was closed for a good portion of that period of time. It didn't open up until last weekend. So speaking of the estuary, if we go down to the bottom there, the Russian River Estuary Management Project management season ended in October, mid-October. So we're continuing to do pinniped monitoring on a weekly basis, and we suspended water quality monitoring because of the flows out in the river, but that may start back up again. So the mouth of the river closed in late September, but last week with the amazing sort of wave action going on out on the coast, as well as the flows in the river, we did have some flooding going on in the estuary. We got to about the 9-foot level, reached about 11.2 feet, and then it self-breached. So we did not have to go out and do mechanical breaching. The berm across the estuary, the beach, so to speak, did breach by itself, and it's currently open at this point. And Dawn already talked about the interim flow changes. There's a couple of great photos here. That's Lake Mendocino in mid-October. Looks a little different than that right now, but anyways, Dawn provided a pretty good update on this, so I'm not going to go through it unless there's any questions. And that's it for me, Susan.
Great. Thank you, Pam. Does anyone in the WAC or TAC have any questions for Pam on the biological opinion? Let's see here. I am not seeing any hands. We have a very quiet group today. Must be all this weather. Anyways, with that, then I'll open it up to public comment on item 11. If you wish to make a comment via Zoom, please raise your hand. If you are dialing in via phone, please dial *9 to raise your hand. And I am not seeing any.
Susan, this is Grant. If I could take advantage of this lull, the rain's coming, to comment about Pam's last item on there, the right-of-way and the negotiations with the landowners. I feel like I really need to commend our right-of-way agents, John Monahan and his whole crew, who've been working diligently. Dave Manning with the Army Corps of Engineers. It's quite an achievement to be able to get the Corps to accept what are, concerns that private landowners have about how this is going to be operated over in perpetuity. So I just want to stress to the WAC members how incredibly important that work is. We've been down some staff with retirements as things evolve, but express my appreciation for getting that through and how important that's going to be for the long term 3 miles left on Dry Creek.
Great. Thank you for that, Grant. Secretary Reyes, I did not see any hands from the public. Did you?
There are no raised hands.
Great, thank you. I'll bring it back in. Drew, did you have any written or verbal comment that you received?
I did not.
You did not. Okay, thank you for that. And thank you for the great report, Pam. It's crazy to look at some of those pictures, both the ones from last weekend and the ones of Lake Mendocino. So picture paints a story. And I'm glad to hear that the Dry Creek held up during that storm. So that's great news. So hopefully everything is intact when the water clears. So with that, we will move on to the Potter Valley project relicensing update. And I believe that this is also you, Pam.
Yeah, it is. So I have two updates. Dawn already gave you an update on what's going on operationally up at the Potter Valley project, so I won't discuss that. But I have two things. One is under that same grant program that Jay talked about a little bit earlier, the Urban and Multi-Benefit Drought Relief Grant Program that the Department of Water Resources is operating. The partners, really specifically the Russian River partners, are looking at applying for a grant. We're in the process of developing a grant application, looking at a couple of tasks that we need help with in the process, the FERC process that we're in. So right now we are looking at doing a couple of things under that grant application, three things specifically. One of them is establishing a Russian River water user forum so that we can not only educate folks about where their water comes from, but also be able to understand the benefit that they're receiving from the Potter Valley project, and have us understand what benefit they're receiving and whether or not they would be willing to participate financially in a continuation of transfer of water through that project, even if it's not operating as a hydroelectric power plant. So that's one of the tasks. A second task under that grant application is going to be assessing the actual physical facilities that some regional entity may or may not own in the future to continue the transfer of water. So looking at the facilities themselves, including passage at Cape Horn Dam, the diversion facility, the tunnel, the penstocks, and looking at them from a condition standpoint, as well as what is the risk, as well as the associated cost of operating those facilities, should some regional entity choose to acquire them from PG&E for future transfers of water. And then the third item, it's a couple of different things under this third item, some sub items, but it's looking at what we're terming a reach-specific water reliability assessment. And so it's looking specifically in Potter Valley and looking at whether or not they have any decent groundwater resources up there or not, whether or not they could build surface water storage, other things looking at Potter Valley itself, and then also a second task would be doing some modeling work so that we can understand how the waters, if the transfer continues, how the water would get to the Russian in terms of timing and quantity of water. So those are the tasks that we're looking under that grant program right now. The second thing I want to mention is the abeyance request, and actually, Chris, I see that, or Chris, I'm sorry, Drew is going to be talking about this, I think, hopefully when I'm done here. So the abeyance request was submitted by the partners at the beginning of September. We notified FERC that we had not secured funds to undertake the studies required by the study plan determination, and we were considering whether or not to relicense the project or withdraw our NOI. And we requested an abeyance until May of 2022, the end of May of 2022, which would allow us to complete condition assessment and do more due diligence and determine benefits and costs and risks associated with ownership of the Potter Valley project, or at least a portion of the project. So at that time, we waited until about September 23rd or so and got a response from FERC saying that they wanted the parties, the two basin solution partners, to file a new license application by April 14th of 2022. And they also directed us to file status reports in November and again, another status report in January of 2022. So they also told us that if we didn't file a new license application in April of 2022, that they may direct PG&E to commence license surrender proceedings. It didn't say they will, it just said they may. We do intend to file a status report with FERC in November per the letter back from them on our advance request, and we're the parties, the two basin solution partners right now are working on that draft response at this point. Our governing boards, especially for the public agencies, are still deliberating exactly what to do here, but we have yet to decide on next steps as far as exactly what that response is going to look like. So we're working on that right now. And I do want to mention too that there was a Potter Valley Project ad hoc committee meeting last Friday. This is a group that Congressman Huffman has convened. It's been together for quite a while, and probably about 4 years now. And this was discussed at that meeting. So just wanted to make sure everybody was aware that meeting happened. I think that's it for me.
Great. Thank you for that, Pam. Are there any questions from any of the WAC or TAC members on this? Yes, Jennifer.
Thank you, Chair Harvey. Thank you, Pam, for that report. I was hoping you could just clarify when you said applying for the grant application, you said particularly the Russian River Partners. So does that mean it's a subset of the NOI parties that are applying for the grant?
Yeah, well, the grant applicant is a single party, but we're working very closely with the Mendocino County Inland Water and Power Commission on the grant application. Our other partners, the folks to the north, I'll call them, have been working diligently on a different grant application, which is more targeted towards habitat and fisheries restoration rather than water supply reliability. So we're kind of splitting up the work that way.
Okay, got it. Thank you. And is Sonoma Water going to be the grant applicant?
Yes, we will be.
Great. Thanks, Pam.
I did not see any other hands. I have a question, Pam. You talked about Potter Valley and them looking at groundwater. Did they have to go through the SIGMA process? Are they one of the basins that had to provide a plan or not? Do you know?
I do not believe they did. Jay, you can correct me if I'm wrong. There is a groundwater sustainability agency in Ukiah Valley.
Okay.
But I don't believe it included Potter Valley. And Jay, you can correct me if I'm wrong.
You're correct, Pam. There's no SIGMA requirement in Potter Valley Basin, but the Ukiah Basin is a medium basin, and it has a groundwater sustainability agency.
Okay, yeah, great. It's actually kind of unfortunate that there's not one in Potter Valley. Otherwise, a lot of this work would have been done. So
yeah, exactly. I'm not seeing any other hands from the WAC or TAC, so I will open this up to public comment on item number 12. If you would like to make a public comment, please raise your hand via Zoom. And if you're dialing by phone, please dial *9. Let's see. I am not seeing any hands being raised by the attendees. Secretary Reyes, do you see any hands?
There are no hands raised.
Thank you so much. And Drew, did you receive any verbal or written comments on this item?
I did not.
Okay. Then, as was pointed out by Pam, we will move on to the WAC comment letter supporting the partnership abeyance request to FERC. And I believe, Drew, this will be another consensus item?
Correct.
Okay, so what we will need is if anybody objects to this when we get that far, please let us know because we're looking for consensus on this item. And with that, I will let you take it away, Drew.
Thank you, Chair Harvey. So just as a follow-up to Pam's summary of, where the Potter Valley project relicensing is, there's no actual comment period with FERC right now, no open comment period, but we did have a meeting with the WAC Potter Valley Project Subcommittee about just this abeyance period, and as a result of that meeting, this support letter was drafted, and essentially it just would be sent to FERC to again support what the agency, what all the planning agreement partners had requested in September to allow more time for some additional studies to take place, more due diligence. And Pam had indicated, that the planning agreement partners had originally requested till May 31st of 2022. And this letter essentially just supports at least what FERC had given through the April 14th and just reiterates the water contractor support for the two basin solution. So we are looking for just a general consensus on sending this letter. And I'd like to add another ask, and that is to utilize the intent of this letter and actually get a consensus from the water contractors to send a second related letter. There would be a support letter for the funding of the grant application that Pam had just talked about. It would be submitted to the state, similar to the earlier support, the grant funding support for that was discussed earlier in the agenda. So this all came out of just the Huffman's Potter Valley project ad hoc meeting on Friday, was trying to get as many agencies to support the Sonoma County Water Agency's grant application to try to secure more funds for this due diligence period between now and April 14th. So I think it makes sense for us to go ahead and have two support letters, one from the WAC to FERC, and then the other related one that would go in support of the agency's submission for the state grant fund. So that would be my request. Be happy to answer any questions or comments.
Any questions or comments by the WAC or TAC? Please raise your hand. I am not seeing any. Drew, are you?
I am not.
Okay, then we will open this item up for public comment. We're now taking public comment on 12A. If you wish to make a comment via Zoom, please raise your hand. If you're dialing in via phone, please dial *9. And I am not seeing any attendee raised hands. Are you, Secretary Reyes?
There are no raised hands.
Okay, then I will bring it back to the board. Drew, did you receive any written or verbal comments on this?
I did not.
Okay, so we are asking for consensus on this item. So if you could please let us know, any of you that do not agree with moving forward on those two letters of support as outlined by Drew, please either speak or raise your hand at this point, please. And Drew, I don't see anyone objecting to those, that consensus. Do you?
I do not. That's correct.
Okay, thank you everyone for that. and we will get those moving forward. So with that, we will move on to item 13, which is the Integrated Regional Water Management Plan update. And I believe Grant's going to take this.
Chair Harvey, very briefly, we tend to put this on in our WAC meetings just to make sure and remind folks of some of the progress that's being made with regard to efforts, most notably this time around for the Bay Area region, which we're part of, and Sonoma Water is a fiscal agent on a project called AQPI. I still think it's not the best name, but it's the best we've got at this point. So it's Advanced Quantitative Precipitation Information. It's a process that hit the front page of the San Francisco Chronicle, and I asked Drew to please include that with your packet. If you haven't had a chance to look at it, the Chronicle's done some pretty good work here with regard to graphic representation of what AQPI is actually going to do, including listing the proposed and current sites where these next band radars are being deployed. This is going to be what I call the next generation of precipitation. It's not just for water purveyors, however. Some of the bigger beneficiaries are ultimately going to be the emergency management and flood agencies and folks that have to deal with inclement weather and knowing exactly where rain is going to fall. So we have an MOU that's just been completed with Scripps Institute of Oceanography with CW3E, the folks that are working with FURO. And the fact that this hit the Chronicle the same day that we were briefing Senator Feinstein's staff was another just fluke and a good sense of timing. But please take a look at that and know that certainly the North Coast, North Bay, Marin counties actually from a separate funding source eligible for putting one of these located up on Mount Tam that's going to improve the coverage for the entire Bay Area. So that's ongoing. And then I just highlight the fact that the North Coast Resource Partnership, which we're also part of on the northern side, it includes 7 counties. And with the significant $15 billion climate resilience package that was passed earlier in September and signed by the governor, we all know that these letters of support are meaningful. There's money that's becoming available for integrated projects, much like that this was started years ago. And we need to continue working together to secure funding for a lot of the drought resiliency dollars that are eligible. So a lot more to come with your staff, but these are 2 of the areas where the state allocates a lot of money if it has a regional significant benefit, which we think we do very well with. And I think that's pretty much what I wanted to update.
Great. Thank you, Grant. Does anyone have any questions or comments for Grant? Please speak or raise your hand. Not seeing anyone, then I will open this up for public comment. Anyone wishing to make a comment on item 13, if you raise your hand in Zoom or dial *9 if you're calling in by phone. And Secretary Reyes.
Chair Harvey, I did
Yes.
see a hand raised by Mr. Ding.
Oh, perfect. I don't know what.
Yeah.
Jack, did you have a comment?
Yes, I don't have any specific question. I just want to take this opportunity, say thank you to all staff, hard work during the past, severe and a drought from the local and from the city of the Sonoma. All of the people participate saving water. So the drought is here, save the water should not be only a slogan. We should still carry it out day-to-day basis because overall, we still in a drought. So thank you for all the updated and looks like everything we are on the top of it all. Yeah, thank you. Thank you all your hardworking and scientific work.
Thank you.
Thank you for that, Jack. Secretary Reyes, I did not see any public comment hands. Did you on this item?
There are no raised hands.
Okay, thank you. And Drew, you got no written or verbal?
That's correct.
Comment?
That's correct. I did not.
Great. Thank you. Thank you for that. So the last item on our agenda is items for the next agenda. Does anyone have anything? We've had a very, very full agenda, and I really appreciate everyone's time. I know that there was a lot to go through, and thank you for being so patient with my technical issues. And we could not do this without Roberta and Priscilla. So thank you so much for helping us with this. So any requests for items next month or next meeting in February the 7th? I am not seeing any there. So I will open this item up for public comment. Anybody wanting to make public comment on item 14, please raise your hand via Zoom. And if you're dialing in via phone, please dial *9 to raise your hand. And I am not seeing any attendees with their hands up. Secretary Reyes, are you?
There are no raised hands.
Great. I will bring it back. Drew, did you receive any written or verbal items?
I did not.
You did not. Okay. Well, thank you everyone again for your patience, and we will adjourn this meeting at 11:16. See you all in February.
Thank you. Have a good.
Thank you.
Stay dry.
Bye.
Bye.